Welcome to Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm your host, Allison Preisinger-Higgins. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is a podcast exploring society, culture, and current events through conversation. We aspire to create an open, respectful, and equitable space where guests may feel free to share their truth and lived experiences. Our core values are rooted in community, connection, and personal development. Stories help us learn, relate, and grow. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. I would like to acknowledge the land on which this episode was created. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people past and present. Land acknowledgement statements are an important part of honoring those whose land we now live and work on. We begin each episode this way to help spark ideas and keep these conversations in the front of our minds so that we may continue to be open to doing better. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. Some additional next steps to consider would be to seek out the stories of Native people from our shared history and today. Spend time asking yourself difficult questions and challenging norms that may be linked to colonialism. Engage in your community around topics like land tax, curriculum, hiring practices, decision-making, organizing, and reparations. Seek out media created by Native people. The more you explore, challenge, and learn, the more questions may arise, but this is how we grow and connect. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I hope this episode finds you well and in a loving and supportive environment. I have been so fortunate to get to connect with all of the folks that I've gotten to connect with for this season. A lot of them were in March, and so I feel bad that a lot of our conversations have had to be extended out for so long, but just given how our episodes are released every other week, that's just how it's been going, and I think it's still been working out all right. We will have a survey coming out in the next few weeks to just get your feedback on this second season as we move towards the third season and are continuously looking to improve and just provide and amplify in better ways. So this episode features Nikenji, and we had a lovely conversation, and she was so genuine and authentic and giving with her story and what she had to share. So be sure to look her up, follow her, and see where you might be able to see her perform in the future. I know that she'll be in Florida, and hopefully she makes her way back to Seattle at some point so that I can see her here with the Seattle Symphony. That would be amazing. Grammy and Emmy-nominated artist Nikenji has performed as a soloist at world-renowned illustrious performance venues such as Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center's Tully Hall, Madison Square Garden, and has headlined pop and opera concerts with Seattle Symphony, Jacksonville Symphony, Cincinnati Symphony, Indianapolis Symphony, and Cleveland Orchestra, just to name a few. She is a proud alumni of both the Julliard School and Manhattan School of Music. Nikenji made her Broadway debut in Sondheim on Sondheim, and most recently was on Broadway in the revival of Caroline or Change. She is an energetic, well-rounded singer and has performed with jazz greats such as Ornette Coleman and Wynton Marsalis, and was nominated for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Musical for her portrayal of the leading roles in both the Elton John Tim Rice musical, Aida, and in Marian Caffey's Three Mo Divas by the Helen Hayes Award and the Arizona Theater Awards. In addition to her performances, Nikenji is also a producer and is currently developing a Broadway-bound musical celebrating Dorothy Dandridge's life and music, which you will hear about in this episode. She is also developing a new TV musical dramedy, Black Butterfly, with TV producer Gina Goff. Thank you for supporting our Take Notice guests, and thank you for being with us. Let's get to the conversation with Nikenji. Well, thank you, Nikenji, for joining me on Take Notice. It's good to connect with you today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for bringing me on. It's happy to be able to sit and chat and talk about all things that are going on.
Wonderful. Yeah. So you're over on the East Coast. I'm out here in Seattle. So are you in New York or Where are you located?
I'm in New Jersey, actually,
New
born
Jersey.
and raised in New York, but I was just in Seattle for the holidays. I was singing with the Seattle Symphony. I did the holiday
Wow.
pops.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
yeah, I loved it. Loved it. I also
Awesome.
was in Seattle many, many years ago, singing with the opera company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Seattle has been a place I've kind of gone back and forth. So glad to know that
Wonderful.
you're in that fabulous city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's actually sunny the past couple of days, so we're
Oh,
good.
hey,
We're
that's
good.
good. That's good.
Yeah. So you performed at was it Benaroya Hall for the pops?
Yes, yes.
Nice.
Yeah, that
Wonderful.
fantastic symphony. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I would love to see you.
Yes.
That's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see. Keeping our fingers and toes crossed as to when they want to bring me back. So
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
definitely let you know.
Yes. So you were born and raised in New York. What part of New York?
First, well, I was technically born in Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan.
Okay.
But then after I was born, my mom took the train to the Bronx, which is where I was raised half of my life up until maybe 11 or 12. And then I moved to Brooklyn, the other side,
Okay.
because, my parents had gotten divorced when I was 10. And then my mom married her best friend and we moved to Brooklyn. And so
Okay.
I claim both the Bronx and Brooklyn, and then of course Manhattan because I did all my schooling in Manhattan.
Oh, okay. Nice. Do you have siblings growing up?
No, only child on my mom's side. I had some half brothers and sisters on my dad's side. He was married before he fell in love with my mom, and but I was never raised with them, so I don't really have like the typical sibling relationship. I have a brother that's in Florida somewhere, and every now and then we'll check in with each other like once a year, or So yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I wish I definitely. It was kind of lonely growing up as the only child, and I had I have a sister that I've never met actually.
Oh, okay.
Because my dad had her at a very, very young age. And then another sister that had passed away from cancer. So it's just my brother that's out there that can claim sibling ship with me. Yes.
Aw. What did your mom do when you were growing up?
My mom was, when I was a baby, she was going to school for criminal justice at John Jay College. And my dad convinced her to change her major. They met at Lehman College, where she was studying to be a nurse. I guess during those times when you fall in love with someone, they get you to change your entire career path because nursing to criminal justice are very different.
Yeah.
And she graduated from school with honors and became a paralegal. And then realized that the staffing agencies were making more money off of her than she was. And she was very high in demand that she decided that she wanted to be an entrepreneur and create a new life for herself and started a staffing agency, which continued for about 25 years.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
That's what she did. So I grew up at age 10, going to the office, after school to keep me out of trouble because my dad wasn't with us anymore. And she, she was a single mom. And so she built that business at the same time as trying to keep me out of trouble.
Right.
That was a big job. But she was an amazing mentor, and watching her build a successful company with $75 to her name, it was quite a significant thing for her to do at that time, and was one of the first successful minority woman-owned staffing agencies in New York State.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my mom was she was kick-ass.
Sounds like.
Yes. So.
Do you remember what your dad did too, or?
My dad was a correction officer,
Okay.
and but he was more of an artist than the correction officer thing was just a job to pay the bills, but he was a writer and a visual artist and
Okay.
had big dreams. And I think if he had the right people around him to truly guide him, when it comes to the steps in making his passion a career, I think he would have been really successful. But
Mm.
unfortunately, he did not have that circle of people, and then he was married twice and had kids to take care of, and life just, sometimes you have to take care of what's in front of you and your responsibilities at that moment, and sometimes those dreams that you have get deferred, and you think that you're setting them aside temporarily, and sadly it gets deferred permanently. And so
Right.
he never really was able to pursue the passion and the talent that he had. My second dad, when my mom remarried, was someone that I knew from a kid because he was my mom's math professor. He was her tutor, actually. He was her tutor. She was, trying to get through her criminal justice and had to take those math courses. And so he
Right.
helped her through that and became her best friend. And that best friend friendship turned into a romance, and they got married. And he was my second dad. He never wanted anyone looking at him as my stepdad. He always presented me as like, this is his daughter. Like, he
Mm.
loved me as if I was, his own flesh and blood, and was a huge supporter of my music. He was a big time. He used to go to symphonies and operas and really exposed me to that side of the music that I was never really exposed to or grew up with,
Mm.
and never missed a show. Never missed a show, no matter where I was. Like, he would fly to Israel and see me perform, or
Wow.
he traveled all over to watch me perform, and took time off from teaching math at Queens College to go on the
Mm.
road with me. So yes, he was, when I talk about my dad, it's my second dad, Marty. He
Mm.
was amazing. Sadly, I lost both my dads many years ago. My
Mm.
first dad, John, he passed away in 2000, and then my second dad, Marty, passed away in 2010. But very lucky to be able to have two dads that I really love.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that sounds like wonderful memories and a lot of support.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh.
So yeah.
At what age, when did you start getting involved in music?
Well, seriously, was at age 10, but I was exposed to music at a very young age, doing piano and dance at 3 or 4 years old at Harlem School of the Arts, which is still thriving, right there on St. Nicholas Avenue in Harlem. And that was my exposure to the arts. Going to Harlem School of the Arts, I had a lot of energy that they needed to focus my energies to, and so they put me in everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it did well for me because
Yeah.
I turned that energy into the music, into a career, and start singing at age 10 when my fifth grade teacher cast me in the You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown musical at PS 95, and the rest was history.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. And now you are thriving, performing with the Seattle Symphony, and you've been in Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center, all these places. So
Yes, thank you.
did you just always know since you started it that that's what you wanted to do, or did it kind of develop in a different way?
Oh no, I always knew.
Yeah.
It was either that or to become a lawyer and be able to give my mother free counsel for a business, or take over my mom's business. That was really, I think that was my mom's plan. Like, I
Oh,
worked in
okay.
that company for many years while I was going to school, and she was definitely grooming me to take over that company. It just didn't go that route the way she had wanted, but she definitely was always supporting my music. And once I started winning competitions in high school and all that, she kind of realized that that was going to be my path. But I was pretty much working in my mom's company for years, like even through college, even past college. She ended up having 3 offices, and I was managing the corporate office in Manhattan. And then I would go away and do a Aida production, and then I'd have temps calling me, letting me know that they can't show up to work the next morning. I'm like, I'm about to go on stage. I'm going to need you to call somebody who is in New York. That ultimately became like the deciding factor. There's no way I could straddle the fence anymore. It was just too much. But I certainly employed a lot of my friends in college who were trying to make some extra dollars on the side. We'd pass out magazines, the Omnibus magazine at Port Authority when the World Trade Center was up. And so and I sent out because we were all actresses and singers. So, when they needed a receptionist at Morgan Stanley, I'd send out one of my girlfriends who'd be big personality, and that's what they wanted. They wanted that energy. And so I definitely, I'll be coming to collect on favors now for all that employment I passed out to my friends. But it was great. It was great. It was a family business, and it was about relationships and being able to call on people last minute. And sometimes it was last minute calling my friends because my mom went through her entire Rolodex and she couldn't find an executive secretary to start work the next morning. Okay, let me give my girlfriend Amelia a call. I think she could do it. So yes, it was. So I was very much involved in that business aspect, which really helps me now because there's so much business oriented levels to being a musician that I'm glad that I had that upbringing of figuring out how to, it was a different business, but it still was the same mentality, figuring out how to read contracts and dealing with people on a higher level and negotiating and sales and marketing and all of that I need in my life now as a singer and a producer and a creator. I use every last tool that I learned growing up on my mom's business. Yes.
I imagine. Yeah, there's definitely a whole side to being an artist or musician that people don't think about as far as all the nuts and bolts and keeping things in line.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have a someone like a Beyonce or Wynton Marsalis, like they have a team of people that are working nonstop, to make that machine work. Right. And if you're not at that level yet, but your goal is to be at that level, there's a lot of groundwork that you have to do just on your own. Just you have to wear a multitude of hats. And then sometimes when you get used to wearing those hats, even when you do get to a level where there are team members that are able to do X, Y, and Z for you, it's hard to let go of the full control because you're so used to knowing everything, I remember I was just having a conversation with a producer friend of mine that we're working on a project, and they're offering their services like, okay, because you are, you're not a full-time producer. You are a producer is one of the hats you wear, but you're also a singer. So what happens when you are performing with the symphony for a week? Someone else has to be there to, you can't possibly, it's great that you want to be a part of those initial Zoom calls and the meet and greet, but then you can't be a part of those calls all the time, and you shouldn't be because you're the artist. And I was like, thank you. Yeah. Someone understands. Yeah. So, I'll be there for the meet and greet. Okay, great. So great to meet you. Yes, can't wait to work on this project together. So now, so-and-so is going to continue with these meetings, and you know how to reach me if you need me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that allows me to focus on the artistic side,
Yeah.
creative side of things.
That sounds like a great balance. And to be
Yeah.
able to have a team sounds amazing.
I know.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
You just it's all about a team. As I say, it takes a village. It
Mm-hmm.
takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to start a business. It takes a village to do a multitude of things. And I'm happy that I have that village of people that really get me through the day to day.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very important. Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you describe a bit about your experience going to college and kind of developing your craft through either college or I don't know, you probably did a lot of private study, I imagine, maybe any of that.
Yes. I went to Manhattan School of Music for my bachelor's degree. And then soon after that, I went for my master's degree at the Julliard School. So it was 7 years nonstop.
Okay. Wow.
Straight after high school. During the summers, I was performing in festivals. There was never a time that I sat still because I was so hungry. I was so hungry for the music, so hungry to do new projects, so hungry to travel, so hungry to perform that even though I was getting my education with these amazing teachers, I always had like one foot out the door trying to get a taste of the performing life, the like being out there life. And I do feel that there could have been some times I could have slowed it down and appreciated being a student, just being a student, just sitting there and focusing and learning your craft. And it's not that I didn't learn my craft. I certainly did. And a lot of my craft was learned by actual having a career while I was in school. So by the time I graduated, I was already like up and running because during the summers I was performing. I was building my resume. I was doing festivals and at that time I was focused on doing opera. So, with operas, it's about learning roles, getting roles under your belt. And as an undergrad, you didn't necessarily get that opportunity at Manhattan School of Music. Now they do that. But at the time that I was there, most of the undergraduates were doing opera scenes and master classes and singing in chorus for the opera, but you were never doing the leading roles, And same with Julliard. Julliard at that time, same thing, JOC, Julliard Opera Center, was the incubator of kind of launching their opera singers, and the JOC was sort of like a professional. It was like after you've done your schooling and kind of like that interim, because it's hard, as for opera singers, your voice is developing too. So like what you were singing at 20, repertoire that you're singing at 20 is not going to be the repertoire that you're singing at 30 because your voices can change into different fox. And so JLC was the performance base. And when I was there, I got a chance to sing and actually do a leading role in a Julliard Opera Center production, which was unheard of at the time. And then I got a great review with Opera News, and then that kind of helped catapult me getting work after that, which is meant for the professional singers that were specifically doing JOC and not the master's program. So I definitely had some doors open for me that weren't open for every master's student, but then there was always kind of a fight. I just remember the director, the department there did not want me doing that role. They wanted the director to give that role to a JOC member. They're like, this is the reason why we have JOC. There'll be time if she wants to be in JOC, let her finish her master's degree, and then she can audition for JOC. Like it was that type of situation. So you had, I have to think about these individuals that really like went for bat for me. Like, no, he was like, no, she's the only person who can do this role. We're like fighting a whole department.
Whole department.
I didn't ask for that, but there was something that he saw in me that I might not have even saw in myself that, helped me get to that next step. And that's how it is as an artist. When you are still trying to find yourself and still trying to identify like what your type was and what type of roles that you're doing, we're students at the time. You look to these mentors, you look to these teachers that help guide you. And it was really wonderful to see that there was that one director that was fighting till the end.
Yeah.
And I got the role and it was magnificent, like being on stage with other, older singers that were, ready to go out into the world, like after that year, because that was their launching pad of trying to transfer to working with opera companies after that. And so there's a lot of, and then there's a lot of things that I didn't get because they were just like, I just can't. There was always a reason, like, I just don't see you in the role. You really, it was everything but the main thing. Like, I just don't see you. You're very petite. I just don't see you, everyone would look much bigger, I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm just like, is it because I'm Black? Is it because this role was written in the 1800s and they didn't see that being played by an African-American woman, So, but it was always every excuse of why they couldn't see, but because of course they know they couldn't say that, but they went around the block so many different times that you're just like, okay, so thank you, but no thank you, because even if you did hire me, it's not for the right reasons. I need you to hire me because you see that I can bring something to that role that is different than anybody else who came through this door auditioning for that role.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't matter how tall I am. It shouldn't matter if I'm petite or large. It shouldn't matter what color my skin is. It shouldn't matter if I have short or long hair. It's about what I bring as an artist to that role. And so it's just about, ultimately, it was always, I realized as I continued in this journey that I had to start developing and creating projects for myself and telling and amplifying stories of women that I thought weren't being amplified enough. And that is how the producer hat started getting added to my list of things that I would do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And I want to hear about that. And I have a question about your, what you mentioned about your voice changing and going through that. Because you mentioned as you get older, I'm a vocalist as well. And I went to school, a completely different experience trajectory, but I went to music school at Berklee in Boston. So
yes, Berklee. It's a great school.
Yeah. I learned a lot. I was in a completely different headspace when I was there, I feel like. But how did your voice shift, do you feel like, when you were 20s, 30s, as you mentioned, and as an opera singer as well? Did it shift, shifted the roles that you were, I know less about opera, so the roles that you might go for maybe shifted as your voice changed? Is that how that works?
Yes. I mean, for opera, we call it like the soubrette roles, the inetta roles, And when we say inettas, it's like short acronyms of all these, the soubrette roles that everyone knows about in the opera world, like the Despinas, the Susannas, the Adinas. And it was always so funny because they're all like the Inas. And these were always soubrette roles that were like the young ingenue, the peppy, oh my God, and the light voices that goes really high, the coloratura, the light lyric voices. And because of my size, I was perfect for those soubrette roles and my voice was that in that direction as well. As I started getting older, my voice, and I started singing more on a regular basis, the pop and the jazz and the musical theater, my voice started having a more richer sound to it. And so then that kind of changed my thought into doing more lyrical roles. So then when I started out, I would do a musetta in La Boheme. Now, if I was going to go into a La Boheme, not that I couldn't do musetta, but I would definitely be more for a Mimi role. So it's and of course those roles are much more dramatic. I just think they're juicier. I feel like, when you're older and you've lived life, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, you go where the check is, right? So if
Sure.
if you're going to be doing the Ina Etta roles, Kathleen Battle, if they're going to continue paying her to do, Adina and Susanna, you're like, sure, I'll sing at the Men, do Susanna, no problem. But, if you had your choice, if I had my choice, I certainly would love to do roles like Aida, Puccini's Aida, Verdi's Aida and Puccini's Mimi. I mix those. And also Tosca and all these, they're just so dramatic. A lot of them are dying at the end of the show, but it's so, for me, it's very grounded. It has a lot of angst as part of that role. There's always something traumatic that's happening to them. And I'm just, I'm a sucker for the drama, versus let's solve this problem. Come on, everybody, let's get together, like the comedic. I definitely love the comedy too, but I feel like that my soul kind of goes more towards the angst, and the comedy is great too. But when it comes to when the opera stars are usually the ones that are doing the more dramatic roles, Leontine Price and Jesse Norman, and
that's where the emotion is and the feeling you can express. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. When did you start producing?
Oh goodness. When did I start producing? I feel like I've been producing all my life and just didn't know it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You put together a show. Like, I mean, I remember when, because obviously producers have multiple hats. There's the producers that bring money to a project. They're the creative producers that are creating the concept and helping that along. And the executive producers that are dealing with this strategic project and the finances and all that stuff. So it's I've had to wear all of those hats in one way or another, depending on the project. But I do feel that seriously start producing was, many years ago. I mean, at least a good 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out what my first project would have been, but I know that I started doing a Donna Summer tribute show. I've been working many years on my Dorothy Dandridge show, which we are successfully bringing to Carnegie Hall in July 17th and 18th.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
That's been a massive project that I've been working on for many years. And bringing it to Carnegie is just a dream come true for me. And having an amazing cast and great director. Tamara Tooney is directing, and the writers, Trey Ellis is the book writer and also is lyricist, and Shelton Becton is a lyricist and composer. So we have Emmy winners and Broadway royalty that's a part of this project, and just really bringing life and celebrating Dorothy Dandridge, who is an absolute Hollywood Black icon and international star. And so, and I'll continue to produce. I'm doing a TV show, Black Butterfly. I'm writing a Black Butterfly musical. There's a Lights of Broadway to the High Seas that I did specifically for some of these international routes that was at the sea on the cruise ship many years ago. So there's lots of different depending on the venue. A couple of months ago, I did a Whitney Houston music tribute show with Jacksonville Symphony.
Oh, wow.
And and working on a Beyonce show to bring to Jacksonville next season. So there's lots in the pipeline, and I have my hands in a multitude of different things when it comes to TV, musical theater, albums, things like that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Wow. That's exciting. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I never sleep.
I imagine.
Yes. And then talk about like taking care of my little girl. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
a proud wife and a proud mom.
Mm.
So,
how old is she?
She is 7 years old.
Mm.
7 years old. Well, actually 7.5. She'll remember about that. 7.5.
That's important, right?
Yes, the half years are very important. I remember when I was 10. For some reason, 10.5 seemed like a big year for me. 10.5.
Yes. Yeah. Get it right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot. But yeah, it's wonderful to hear how many creative things, and then you get to travel around and bring your voice to different audiences and things. That's amazing. Yeah. Dorothy Dandridge. I know I've heard the name. Can you explain a little bit about the show?
This icon?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Let me explain to you who Dorothy Dandridge is.
Yeah.
She was the first African-American woman to be nominated for an Oscar in the Outstanding Leading Actress category for Carmen Jones. She was also Bess in Porgy and Bess. Both of these movies were directed by famous Austrian actor Otto Preminger. She died at a very young age, in her early 40s. She was a Scorpio, like myself. She's November 9th. I'm November 6th. I'm like, you see, we're connected. She was the first in so many aspects. The first Black entertainer to headline at the Waldorf Astoria. She went overseas to do movies, to be a leading actress in these movies, because during that time, interracial kissing was illegal in the States. And so that is, so she's not just an American sweetheart, but an international icon. And was very much into the Black movement, supporting Dr. King and civil rights, and really speaking up for her fellow contemporaries, always showing appreciation for the likes of Lena Horne and Billie Holiday and Sarah Vaughan. She always spoke highly of these artists that she felt that needed to have more attention, and why she's being the first artist to perform at the Waldorf Astoria when you have the likes of Billie Holiday and Sarah Vaughan. She was very vocal about that. And had, and was a mom. First and foremost was a mom. She had a daughter who was autistic and needed around the clock care, nursing care. And so what was really the driving force of everything that she did, especially when she married Harold Nicholas and they parted ways and he left and she was a single mom, was making sure that she could support her daughter, Lynn. It was always about her love for supporting her daughter, and every gig that she would do, every movie, every headline jazz club or hotel that she would perform, it was because she needed to take care of her daughter. That was always the driving force. But in the press, it was always about her beauty and what relationship she was in at the time. But behind the closed doors, it was that love for her daughter was stronger than anything.
Wow. I can only imagine what a beautiful performance is coming in July.
Yes.
And
it's about celebrating, like really celebrating her life and her triumphs.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So who or what, we've talked a little bit about some of what you've been doing and the different programs and performances that you're producing. Who or what would you say was a big influence on you, either in your career now or when you were growing up?
Always my mom. It was always my mom. Yeah. And just watching her, I don't think she realizes how much she was teaching me without teaching me.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing how she maneuvered around the struggles and how she triumphed with her business, and everyone used to always say no, she would never be able to make it. She didn't have an MBA when, like she didn't go to school for business administration, or she didn't go to school for staff. You know what I mean? Like there was always someone telling her that she couldn't do something. And that just made her even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And never took no for an answer. And I think I have a little of that in me. and just watching her be such a success, and then also watching the downfall of her success and seeing things that she couldn't control in a way because of her mother dying and being so distraught, and her kind of turning to gambling to kind of try and fill that void, that when you lose someone who's raised you, and it was actually her grandmother, but she considered her mother and she raised her. And that spiraling downfall of not being able to focus on anything, and gambling is a disease. It is a disease. And suffering from depression is also a major disease as well. And seeing that, and then finding out later that she had a degenerated neurological disease that was shrinking her brain. And so she's, she's still alive right now, but she is not where she should be if she was a healthy woman. She's not a healthy woman. And so watching her, and then her being my mentor and her supporting me, now the tables have turned so that I'm supporting my mom, being her guardian and making sure that she has the care that she needs, and always kind of striving to be the best, because it's not just for me anymore. It's for my daughter, having a legacy to pass on to my daughter. It's making sure that my mom is taken care of. I always frightful, like if anything should happen to me, what would happen to my mom and my daughter? You know what I mean? Like these things. And so you just like every day is always just like working for, it becomes a bigger picture. It's a bigger picture now. Right. And so she has always been my mentor and always the biggest joys of my life, and has changed the capacity of me doing things to want to always make sure that she's supported and she never has to want for anything.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the woman, Annette Hoffman. Yes.
Wonderful. I have one more question for you. How has your progress or experiences been impacted by systems in place? So either school systems, government, legal, any of those types of, any system, really. Is there a moment that you can describe where that comes to mind where you're impacted by a system?
Interesting. I feel like school has always been a part of because of the career that I was choosing. You just can't wake up one day and like, I'm going to be an opera singer, Yeah. So the schooling was major for me. Like it was always about school, because I had to get the training. I had to learn the languages. I had to learn the International Phonetic Alphabet. I had to have the coachings and the experience of being attached to a school is also like, I start realizing like how political things are when it comes to teachers and coaches and what school, your pedigree, what school you went to. I mean, it's all part of the big picture when it comes to getting a job or getting the training that you need, or figuring out what your path is going to be. Because I was always performing so much, when I was at Julliard, it was one situation that I always felt like I had to prove myself. Like it was always, there were times when spotlight was on me, and there were other times where I just had to like climb and pull it down to get to bring it down to where I can be able to be able to just be on that level for just a second. And I do feel that there was a moment when I went to Julliard because one, they gave me scholarship. I wanted something a little different than, I had done 4 years at Manhattan School of Music. Not that Manhattan School of Music doesn't have an excellent graduate program, but my teacher taught at both schools. So it was sort of like having the best of both worlds. But I do remember that, Julliard was very much about allowing artists to go on tours, and you'd have like these 2 weeks at a time. You can go away and sing and come back. And, but you still had to keep your grades up and all that stuff. Well, listen, theory was not my best subject. Okay. It just wasn't. And I was always struggling with theory. And so I had a really hardcore teacher that was just like, I don't care about your performances, whatever. And of course, you had to get their signatures in order to be approved to go. And so she would always still like approve it, but like grudgingly, like whatever, Yeah. And I just remember that I had missed so many classes that it was just hard to keep up. And it was an understanding that with the administration and because my dad also went to Queens College, that if I had taken, it was theory and music history. And I got through theory. She was like, we're good. I'm going to work with you. Right. And music history, I just missed so many classes, and it's a lot of listening and, identify like, which movement, which composer, and what year. And like, I was like, I don't have time to listen to all this because I was preparing for shows. I was creating recitals. I was doing like 150 solo recitals across the country through Columbia artists, through their community concert series, and going to school and trying to get a degree all at the same time. So that was my comment I said before. I was like, hey, sometimes it's better to just sit and focus. I do feel that I put way too much pressure on myself at the time. Like I could have deferred that to like after I graduated, I could have done that concert. I didn't have to do it while I was in school. You know what I mean? Like they make the offer. We want you to do it. If you say no, it's okay to say no. You could say no. I want to finish this last year of school, but let's do this after I graduate. Then, hey, you could do more concerts because you're out of school, right?
Right. Yeah.
No, I didn't think that. I was like, yes. And it became a nightmare because I'm trying to handle my schoolwork simultaneously doing a career in touring across the country. And my music history class was like, I'm not giving you a passing grade, and I'm like, but I need to get my degree. So we worked it out. The administration worked it out so that I can do a music history class at Queens College, and that would be a transferable credit, right?
Yeah.
And it was when I got there, and I got like an A in music history. It was like I wasn't like a dumb student. Like I just had too much on my plate. And why is it that administration was like, oh, we don't recall that? We don't remember. What do you mean you don't remember? Like I wouldn't have paid to go and do a music history course.
The agreement. They
Oh yeah. Because like you don't like have things in writing.
Right.
Like now you're like, I'm gonna need you to sign off on this. And what was that again? I'm taking a picture.
Yeah.
Because people do that now, like things are put in place like that because of the many years of people getting burned. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And so it was tough, like trying to fight for that degree when, I had put in 3 years and then, you got administration saying, yeah, no, I don't remember saying that you could do that. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't remember? And so I just remember like being really like disheartened and very angry about the system, the school system that was giving me opportunities, the school system that was training me to prepare me for the world, but then also the school system that was trying to screw me over.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that will always stay in.
Yeah. And just
in
one
memories.
Class too. Yeah.
Wow.
And
so it was definitely a whirlwind of different mountains that I had to climb. And
what was the resolution for that? Did you finally get them to recognize those credits, or?
Yeah, there was the resolution. We had to compromise on the type of degree that I got.
I see.
And I had no choice.
Wow.
No choice. Yeah. So it was a graduate degree, but it wasn't the credential that I had entered the school for. And that was very disappointing.
Yeah.
But then I said to myself, fine, I will be so successful that I'll be getting honorary doctorate degrees from every school that I want. And then you will call me Dr. Nikenji, because I would have earned it.
Yeah.
But yes. And so would I have done things differently? Yeah, I definitely would have not have put so much on my plate. But at the end of the day, we do what we think is best at the time. And, if you could look at the future self and say, whoa, wait a minute, don't say yes to that. You don't know, at the time I was thinking to myself, this is a great opportunity. So then when I graduate, I would have that on my resume. I would be able to get more work, and I did, there's never been a time, outside of Broadway shutting down. And even when Broadway shut down for 18 months, I still was working in a capacity as a teacher. I was doing, virtual concerts. I was still singing for virtual galas and being appreciated and compensated for my artistry. So I'm very fortunate about that. Very fortunate. There's lots of people that have graduated and had to go a different route when it comes to their careers, because this is not an easy. It's not for it's not for the weak.
Right.
It's not for, it is, go getter, survival of the fittest type industry. And you have to continuously always put yourself on a pedestal if no one does it for you, because if you don't believe in yourself, it's the internal being that makes you fight every day to obtain what you've worked so hard for, and if you don't have that inner appreciation, that self-awareness that I deserve this salary, I'm going to ask for that salary, or not, whatever you want to give me, I'm just appreciative to be performing. No,
right.
You worked hard to earn those degrees. You paid a lot of money for those vocal lessons or those dance lessons or those get your worth, Now there's those times when you do things for a favor, helping people out. We do it all the time. Or if it's for a good cause, or, you're just you know what? I really believe in this project, so I'm going to do this. I'm not going to charge a fee for this. I do those things all the time, but but you still have to stand your ground and make sure that you're not being walked over and you're not being taken advantage of.
Right. Because people will easily do that for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. Well, is there anything that you want to make sure? I know we talked a bit about your projects already, but is there where can people find you? Where, the most recent things coming up in 2022, any of that?
Yes. Well, there's, my big focus is Dorothy Dandridge, July 17th and 18th. People can keep up with everything Nikenji on social media. I'm Diva Nikenji on Twitter, Diva Nikenji on Instagram. I am Nikenji Music. That's my website. I'm also Nikenji's Music on Facebook. And you can subscribe to my newsletters. I have newsletters that go out once a month. keeping everybody updated as to anything that I'm doing when it comes to live performances, podcasts, interviews, those things. And so people can go on my website and subscribe and drop their email in there, and they'll be added to the list, and can send me direct messages. I reply, and I love people who want to interact and keep up with what's happening and come support the projects that I'm doing, come to the shows. This is it's a new exciting year. I'm also going to be, when it comes to symphonies, I'm working with, oh my gosh, wait, I got to think of my symphonies I'm doing in the spring. I'm going to be singing with Jacksonville Symphony this season. I'm going to be singing with Houston Symphony. I'm doing a holiday concert with them. And I'm also, working on new music all the time. Is always just creating. I love creating. When I tell you now, something new might come on my plate next week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's great to be an artist during this time. It's great to be supportive of others. I'm all about like women empowerment and amplifying these stories of those who are not around to tell their stories anymore. And I'm also, supporting organizations. I'm on the board of a Moss Musical Theater and Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts. I also started the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee at the Players in New York City. And so I'm just always just trying to support equality and diversity and standing on the shoulders of such great icons that if only we could have been a fly in the wall.
Yeah.
During those times, flashbacks. But yes, it's about supporting one another. It's about standing up for yourself. It's about being creative and telling our own stories and telling them well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate you for joining me and look forward to all those projects and keeping up with what you have going on and supporting all of it. So
thank you.
I appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. It would really help us out if you could take a couple of minutes to review our podcast. You can do so through your podcast app or by visiting our website. It's takenoticepodcast.org. Thank you for your support. Take Notice Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger Higgins with help from many. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Higgins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.